Have you ever saved a life or been saved by others? This video is about one of those times, a real-life incident where a life might actually have been saved due to a very fortunate coincidence. In this case, this is about an inexperienced and incorrectly dressed beginner kayaker, unprepared for or maybe unaware of the dangers of seriously cold seawater conditions, probably not really realizing the danger on a warm, sunny day in spring. The paddler in question suddenly finds himself capsizing while paddling in the archipelago in southern Finland and quickly finds himself in a difficult and potentially life-threatening situation. By pure luck, my cousin, Beatrice, and other experienced kayak instructors happened to be passing by in the area right then, and this situation could of course have developed into something much worse if not. In this video, you'll hear the story from Beatrice herself, and I'll be adding a bit of analysis with learning points and key considerations that need to be made when paddling in cold water. I'll also point to some useful learning resources if you'd like to learn more about cold water safety. As such, this video provides an important real-life example for kayakers paddling in cold water. Quick background before we get to the incident. My cousin, Beatrice, is the president of the Finnish kayak club Merimelojat, located on the large lake Lohjanjärvi in southern Finland, and she is, together with her paddling friends there, a very active kayaker and dedicated educator when it comes to safe kayaking. Since there's no video footage available from the actual incident, I'll make some footage from their kayak club activities with video clips from paddle trips where I was fortunate enough to visit them and be kindly shown around the Lohjanjärvi lake and the southern Finnish archipelago. Some who have followed this channel for some time might, for example, recognize the infamous Lohjanjärvi sea monster, or this absolutely stunning sunset from the archipelago there. Now, let's hear from the incident from Beatrice.
Hi there, I'm Beatrice, a kayak instructor from Finland. I want to tell you about an incident that took place on the 1st of May in Suvisaaristo in Espoo, Finland. That day the weather was sunny and warm, around plus 15 degrees Celsius. The wind was blowing about 4 meters per second and more further out at the sea, about 5 to 6 meters per second. That day I went paddling with some friends and we had a break on a beautiful island from where you could see the open sea. Further out at the sea we had a fresh tailwind, but as we paddled back towards the club's kayak shed and approached more protected areas, it was quite calm. At the bay 2 paddlers came towards us, a man and a woman. We greeted each other and continued our journey home. I paddled last and had a little distance to my friends. Suddenly I heard loud voices and some splashing. I turned my kayak and saw that a man had capsized with his kayak and was lying in the water. I tried to yell to my friends, but they didn't hear me. I didn't blow the whistle because I knew that they would check where I am. I paddled as fast as I could to the man in the water. I spoke Finnish with him, but it turned out that he only spoke English. He wanted to swim ashore, but I instructed him to grab the handle in front of my kayak. I also told him that I will paddle backwards towards the shore and order him to kick with his legs a bit. By that time my friend had reached us. One friend helped the woman to empty the flipped over kayak, while another friend picked up the man's shoes and paddle from the water, and one friend came to help me. One friend acted as an observer. The woman had taken a paddling course several years ago, but she didn't remember how to empty the kayak and how to help a capsized paddler aboard. The man on the beach was freezing. He was dressed in sweatpants and a blouse. Neither the man nor the woman had a change of dry clothes with them. I asked them where they were heading. They replied that they had wanted to paddle a little further because they wanted to see more of the open sea. I asked them if they knew how many meters per second the wind was blowing and told them that in such conditions It can be difficult for an unexperienced paddler to turn the kayak. The woman told us that her brother lived quite close by, so they would borrow dry clothes from him when they got ashore. We lent the man a storm keg and told him to get back into the kayak. It turned out that the man had never paddled before, and he didn't know how to get into a kayak. Together we paddled to the club's kayak shed, and just as he approached the pier, the man was about to capsize again. On the pier he said he was cold, so I gave him warm coffee to drink and ordered him to go and change clothes. With this true story, I want to remind all of you paddlers how important it is to have the right equipment along with you, even if it's just a short trip. I also want to remind you to dress according to the water temperature, not according to the air temperature. Hypothermia is nothing to play around with and can have serious consequences. I also want to emphasize that it is extremely important to know how to rescue a capsized kayaker. The best way is to practice rescuing together. Then you know how to do it. Thank you for watching this. As my cousin Patrick usually says, happy paddlers and stay safe out there.
All right. Thank you, Beatrice, for sharing this story, and well done to you and your paddling colleagues for this response, for responding to this difficult and dangerous situation. That paddler and his co-paddler were definitely immensely lucky to have kayak instructors showing up like this just after a capsize. That is really unlikely, but really lucky in this situation. But I thought it's a good idea to take a look at what could have happened here. What could have happened in this scenario after a capsize like that? Well, we're talking about, first of all, cold water. This is beginning of May on seawater, and the water is dangerously cold, definitely. So in a worst case scenario, first of all, cold shock caused by hitting the water could mean involuntary inhalation of water and frankly lead to a relatively immediate case of drowning in the worst case. In this case, the paddler obviously made it out of the kayak onto the surface, and the other untrained paddler might have tried to help but failed, leading to another capsize, and all of a sudden you have two paddlers in the cold water, and worst case, not having the strength to swim into shore. I understand this wasn't enormously far away from shore, but still you get affected quite quickly by cold water, and you might not at all be able to get into land, or you might be pushed out from land by waves and wind. Hypothermia, as Beatrice points out, is really serious, and you really need to respect the effect of cold waters, even on strong paddlers. So in this case, these paddlers, both of them, were definitely in a very dangerous situation, which they weren't prepared for. Even worse, they were headed out towards more open water without realizing the difficulty that increasing wind and waves might bring. So neither of them was really able to perform a re-entry, a self-rescue, or an assisted peer rescue. So they actually weren't prepared for getting back into the kayak, and they were out on cold water. That's a really bad combination right there. And once the kayaker, thankfully, was rescued and brought back to land, he didn't have spare clothes along, which should be there in a waterproof bag, such as a dry bag. So that's obviously no fun. He was back on shore freezing. In this case, received help from the, let's say, professional kayakers there. This, I think, is fairly common, actually. And that's why this is important to talk about, because you have so many paddlers that are so happy after maybe a cold winter to see a sunny day with, in this case, 15 degrees Celsius after a cold winter that might seem really warm. So it's sunny and the air is nice and the water is tempting. So why not go out there and paddle and have a good time? But in this case, well, they were dressed for the air temperature. I think Beatrice mentioned the paddler had sweatpants on and a t-shirt or something like that. And that's simply nothing that will protect you against cold water in those conditions. They should have been out there in a dry suit or a wetsuit at minimum, clothes that would help them withstand the cold if they were to end up in the water. And obviously they were not. So they didn't have the knowledge of how to get back into the kayak. They didn't understand the situation. They didn't understand the increased risk of getting out onto more open waters where it's windier. And they didn't have the proper gear, the proper training, or the preparedness for something like this. So this could have been a lethal situation. It's enormously great that these professional kayakers happened to stop by at that absolute moment, but it could have gone so much worse if not. So those are some things that we really need to consider as kayakers. It is great to be out there. It's a relatively safe sport if you do it right, but if you don't, it can be dangerous. So a few conclusions and recommendations here. All right. This case is a good example, I think, of things that are always important to consider when paddling, especially in cold water conditions. Make sure you have the proper training. Practice re-entry, getting back into your kayak by yourself and with a friend, assisted rescue. Make sure you have the proper gear. Wear a PFD, a personal flotation device. In cold water, wear a dry suit or a wetsuit depending on the water temperature. Bring a bilge pump to be able to get water out of your kayak and a paddle float to be able to stabilize and make it easier to get back into the kayak if you capsize. Always dress for the water temperature, not the air temperature. Be prepared for a capsize. Dress for immersion. Adapt your paddle route to your skill level and the conditions. Check the weather before you go out. Be able to call for help. Make sure you have a charged phone in a waterproof pouch. In more remote locations, you might actually even need a marine VHF radio or maybe even a PLB, a personal locator beacon. Bring spare clothes along in waterproof bags, meaning dry bags. Paddle together with a friend and check with them before the paddle to see their level of training and that they have the right gear. Make sure that others know that you're out paddling, your paddle route, and your expected time of return. In summary, with a few hints of resources that you can use. First of all, I know that my cousin Beatrice and many others are dedicating an immense amount of time, in most cases on a voluntary basis, to training and informing paddlers to allow them to enjoy the water in a safe and responsible way. And that's actually a lot of the focus of this channel as well, as you might have noticed. As such, I'd like to express respect and appreciation to all of those functionaries out there. Kayak instructors, kayak leaders, safety organizations, and just responsible paddlers who help bring the message to others. And here I'd like to highlight a few resources that you might find helpful if this topic interests you. Obviously, again, here on the Air on the Water channel, there is a paddling safety section. If you scroll down on the main page, you'll find it. And there is the Paddling Safety Facebook group with a lot of paddling safety discussions and information for kayakers in cold water. There are the cold water kayaking group on Facebook and winter kayaking group on Facebook. And one particularly useful knowledge resource that I really recommend that you check out if you haven't is coldwatersafety.org. coldwatersafety.org, where you can see facts on cold water kayaking, the dangers of cold water, information of what gear to use, And in the case index on the page, there are other actual scenarios, both including close calls and, unfortunately, cases with circumstances where the paddlers in cold waters didn't make it, and explanations on how to prevent that. So this is a really important topic, and I encourage you to read up on cold water safe paddling and be active in the discussions. Very welcome to share your experiences in the comment section below. Have you been part of a dangerous situation on the water? Have you saved someone? Have you performed a peer rescue or a solo rescue to get back into the kayak or help someone else? Have you saved a life even? Or has anyone else saved you? Have you heard of other paddlers who have? Share your experience as well and contribute. And let's all remind each other to stay safe out there, respect the water, but knowing also that when you do this right, kayaking can be a safe and really amazing sport, and paddling in general as well. So again, stay safe out there, everybody. Thank you for watching, and happy paddles.